Hello everyone, back today with a gameplay sample video for a game that recently left early access called Satisfactory. It's a factory building game, and thought I'd show you all a little bit what it was like. The weather outside today is lovely overcast. Um, Sky's still pink with some of the rays of sunrise morning. Um, so, in this game, you mostly build a very large factory, which can very quickly become a spaghetti bowl of conveyor belts, as you can see here. And there are exploration and combat elements to the game, but for the most part, the focus is building these factories. You build power plants, gather resources, and you ship those resources to places and maybe, well, definitely build a lot of things out of them. Like, for example, you can see here, we've got a copper ore mining operation going on, and we turn it into copper ingots, and then we turn those copper ingots into rolls of metal sheets, and then we ship those sheets off somewhere else where we can turn them into electronics or what have you. So I thought I'd show you a little bit what building one of those lines looks like as part of this gameplay sample. I'll probably make some more videos about some of the other things in the game, but I'll keep this one short and on point. So the first thing you do is you go out and you find resources. You have a little scanner, and you can set it to go look for specific resources, and then you can see up on that compass up at the top, it'll give you an idea of where those resources might be. Now, iron is relatively common, so you're seeing a lot of pings. I've already scouted out this particular location, and the center of our base is off in the direction of this space elevator, which you can see the top of. You can just see the lights right now because of all the clouds. Normally you'd be able to see this big old like space station up there in orbit, and this space elevator that sends resources up to it. There's a unnamed crisis on Earth, and we're sent alone to this world to harvest resources and make products that are key to building the space elevator, and eventually, you know, sending things back to Earth that can save the day from whatever the trouble is. Anyway, back to the building. The first thing you do is you lay down a miner, and it looks like a drill. You get this when you first start laying down a building or conveyor belt or something in this game. You get kind of a blue hologram. It's red if you're in a place where you can't place it. It's blue if it's in a place where you can. And so you can rotate that around until it's facing the right way you want. And then you've got to power it. So we'll need a power pole next to it. And then we'll need to connect the machinery to the power pole, and then connect that power pole to some part of our power grid, which we're a little far from our power grid at the moment. But you see that pipeline out there in the distance. We can just run over there. There'll be a power pole somewhere over here. If we get too far, it'll tell us that the wire's too long. Same thing happens with conveyor belts and stuff. They can get quite long, but they don't go on forever. So, we need power. And there's a power pole there. And the wire is still too long. We were so close and yet not close enough. Alright, so now we have power at our build site. And that miner is going to start churning out resources. We need to give those resources a place to go. And since we want to produce iron widgets, we're going to just do some manufacturing right here on site. Let's see here. First thing we're going to need is a smelter. That will allow us to turn that iron ore that miner is going to churn out into iron ingots, which can be used to craft other things. So, we need to put a conveyor belt on the output of this miner into the input of this smelter. We need to power the smelter. And we need to tell the smelter what we want it to make. We want it to make iron ingots. So now we can see that iron ore is pouring into that machine. And the machine is starting to make iron ingots. Let's see here. It tells us here that our miner is producing 60 iron ore per minute. It says that the smelter consumes 30 iron ore per minute to produce 30 iron ingots per minute. So we actually need 2 of these smelters. So we're going to slap a splitter on that conveyor belt, which will let us, well, split the output of this miner into more than one smelter. So we're going to put down another smelter because we are not currently set up to consume all of the iron ingots or iron ore that we're going to be producing. So we're going to line that up more or less even. It's not as even as I'd like, but we're not going to take too much time in this short video making things perfect. So let me set this one up for iron ingots as well. And then we will be producing as many iron ingots as we possibly can from this miner. At least once we connect that smelter into that miner. Now they'll both be producing iron ingots. So we're going to have 60 iron ingots coming out. And we want to make some stuff with those iron ingots. Let's see, we've got 60 iron ingots coming. We're probably going to need to split those more than one way. Let's see what we can make with iron ingots. We can pull up a little quick search here. And then we can look up how to make iron ingots and the sorts of things we can make out of them. Looks like we can make iron plates and iron rods. The iron plates require 30 iron ingots per minute to produce 20 iron plates, and the rods require 15 iron ingots to produce 15 rods per minute. So we can split one of these smelters into 2 conveyors to feed 2 machines to make iron rods. There's a little feature here. We see that line there that lets us know that we're lined up. This game is all in 3 dimensions. Normally these factory games are top-down, overhead view. So lining things up isn't difficult, but it's a good thing that this game has little guidelines like that, because otherwise it would be really difficult to try and set these things up so that they were at all lined up with each other. Alright, so we're going to have this constructor. We're going to have two constructors. And we are going to have both of them produce iron rods. We've got to connect them to the power. The power pole is starting to get a little full. So we're going to make another one. We're going to put that pole right here if it'll let us. There we go. And connect this machine to that rod and this machine to the pole, rather. And then we can set up feeds so that our iron ingots get fed into the constructors. And then we tell the constructors we want to make iron rods. And then this other one produces 30 per minute, and as you'll recall, perhaps, that was how many iron ingots we needed to make iron plates. So we're going to need some iron plates and some iron rods. Show me my guideline. There we are. And since it requires exactly what that machine puts out, we don't need to put a splitter on it. We'll just let that feed right in. Power line to this machine. Let's see, it connects there. And iron plates. Now, we don't need two separate conveyor belts sending out iron rods, so we're going to put down one of these conveyor mergers. Go to line that up right. Looks like I lined that up right. And we're going to run a conveyor belt from the output of each of those machines into a merger. So instead of having to run two lines, we can run one. So we see the iron rods pouring out. And we've got iron plates here. And our main base is over there. So we're going to... maybe we can send the conveyor belts up past that copper stuff that I showed you earlier. So, we will start building conveyors in the direction that our main storage is. Come off the edge of this cliff. And we'll do the same thing from here, from that merger. And you can see that those conveyor belts are starting to form. Excuse me. And we can just repeat that process, going out as far as we can. As you can see, there's a limit to how far we can go, just like with the power lines. And we can adjust the height of those conveyors. And we can just keep sending those until we get to where we're going. I'm not going to do that on camera because we're going to keep this short. But once we got to where we were going, we could take, say, those plates and those rods, and we could feed them both into a machine like this. It has two inputs. It allows us to make more sophisticated items like a reinforced iron plate, which requires iron plates and screws, which you make out of rods. So we would need to set up another constructor, feed the rods into it, put out screws, and then we could feed the screws and the plates that we're making into this machine and make reinforced iron plates. And you just end up building more and more sophisticated things as you use larger and larger constructors, or assemblers, I guess maybe is a better word for it. Sometimes you run into problems like we just did there, where you're trying to build on a hill and it just doesn't want to do that because it doesn't want your buildings hanging out in the air. Game is not a slave to physics, but it does at least try a little bit. So in situations like that, we can lay down these little foundation blocks that require concrete from limestone and steel plates, like what we were making there, just not far back. And then once you've got enough of these foundations down, then you have a nice level surface to put things on. And it also has a snap to grid feature so that everything moves neatly and orderly in 1 meter increments, as opposed to just, being able to put stuff wherever, assuming that the ground's flat. Anyway, so as I was saying, you have these more and more sophisticated assemblers that you can use to make more and more sophisticated parts as you start building more high-tech products that eventually can get pretty advanced. So you can see we need screws, which we haven't even started making yet, and we need I-beams and steel pipes and modular frames. And modular frames, for example, are a little complicated to make. We need those reinforced plates that we saw and iron rods to make them. So you see that things just get more and more sophisticated, and you need to have more and more elaborate operations, which leads to that spaghetti bowl I showed you at the beginning of the video. I think that'll about do it for this particular video. Thanks for coming, thanks for watching, and if you're still interested, maybe next time we can show off how trains work in this game. Talk to you later. Have a good one.